Y'all, welcome to Adventures with Aggie. Today we're launching season 3 of our show, which is entirely about adaptive and parasport. Our first episode of season 3 features Ashley Dyce. She is a Team USA Parapowerlifter. Her sports philosophy is adapt or perish, and she's going to tell us what that means to her. Please welcome Ashley. Ashley, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm excited to learn more about you. But first, can you just kind of give me a little bit of background into who you are and what you do?
So, who I am, I'm Ashley Dyce. I'm 34 years old from Southern California. Right now, I'm currently a USA Parapowerlifter. Um, Outside of that, I'm a graphic designer. I do ministry at my church. I run my own business. My family runs a business that I help with as well. So that's a little bit of what I do. Other than that, I have a puppy and I just have fun.
I love so much when people say that they have pets in their intro because that just shows how much you love your puppy.
Yeah.
Amazing. Cool. Let's talk about, I guess, your sport path here. Um, I've read lots of articles on you. I know you did lots of things, discus, javelin, now you're lifting.
Yeah.
So can you kind of walk me through those different times in your life and how you ended up at USA Powerlifting?
Well, I know at like a younger age, I used to do like sport camps that I only got the opportunity to do during summer. So I used to play tennis and basketball. But once I started getting into middle school, high school, the opportunities weren't really there. A lot of the camps were for like younger kids. So during that time, I kind of like went away from sports. Even though I still love to watch sports, I watch the Olympics every year or every 4 years, I should say. And I didn't know about the Paralympics until about 2012, and that was just like, I got to do it. I got to do it. So I went to track and field. um it was like the right fit. Throwing was just my thing. Everybody said I had the natural talent to do it, and I felt like I gave everything I could for that sport. And I mean, one day I was on Facebook and I saw powerlifting and I was just like, what is this? So I'm like, at one point I was like, okay, maybe I can do two sports and probably be that athlete that, competes in two summer sports. But I quickly realized that it's very tough. And once I got into powerlifting, it was just like that light switch just goes off. And I'm like, yeah, this is where I really, 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 really want to be. And I just love it since then. So I've been competing for, the last 5 years.
That's awesome. I guess a kind of a follow up to that is, at what point did you know that you wanted to be an athlete? Like, you know that sport was going to be a part of your life, or did it kind of, I guess, come naturally to you? It sounds like it might have been natural. But yeah, was there like an aha moment when you were like, I need sports and this is what I'm gonna do?
Mm, I think when I was younger, I knew I wanted to do it. But, like I said, once the opportunity started kind of going away, I'm like, okay, maybe I had to start doing something else. So then, I went to college for graphic design, got my degree. And then once I was done with school, I couldn't find a job, couldn't find a job, couldn't find a job. So then once I saw the summer games, it's like, it just happened at the right time because I finished school at the end of 2011, and then the summer games came on 2012, and I'm like, hey, you know, there there's an avenue for me there, and I'm just like, let me just go for this dream and compete in sports and see where it takes me.
That's awesome. It feels like you're speaking about it feels like it was natural to you, which
Yeah.
is so nice. I think a lot of times too, like people will do sports just because they're good at it or because they can. But I think when you actually enjoy what you're doing and you know this is what you want to do, it makes competing and those long hours of training that I know you put in well worth it.
Oh yeah,
But
it definitely does.
yeah, let's talk about it. How's your training going? How, I guess I have to ask you a COVID question because everybody's asking COVID questions. How was your training impacted this last year?
I would say there was times where I didn't feel like it impacted my training, and then there was times where it completely just like shut everything down. Thankfully where I trained at was like a private gym, so me and my trainer were able to go in there, when nobody else was there and just train. but I wasn't able to go to like commercial gyms and do, accessory work or anything else that I wanted to do. And after a while, I had to like buy my own equipment and, start having stuff here at home. So then I could, keep up with my training. So it kind of went up and down just as the year went progressed. And as things are getting better now, we're opening up more. It's getting, my train is back on a better path, and, it's getting good again.
That's awesome. I get so excited now because I started this show right at the beginning of the pandemic. So athletes weren't competing for the most part. And
Right.
now it's so cool to see people like you who are actually like doing their sport. Like it sounds silly to say, but I've been doing so many of these remote interviews where it's like, yeah, like I'm a soccer player, but I haven't seen them play. And I had him on the show 8 months ago, and so now everything's kind of going back full circle, I guess. But it's cool to see these athletes that I speak to actually be athletes and go train and do things.
Right.
So fun. Awesome. I guess this is kind of a follow-up to what you were talking about you discovering the Paralympics. How have you, since discovering it, it's obviously become a huge kind of part of your life, just parasport in general as well. How do you work to raise awareness so that other people know about the Paralympics and the awesome things that the Paralympic movement involves?
Right. So one of the things I would have the opportunity before COVID was going to schools and talking to kids and, middle school, high school, elementary school, and just giving them that exposure. So when they grow up, they know like, hey, if I have a disabled cousin or brother or sister, they have opportunities to be in sports, through my social media. I try to post as much about, the different games that are coming up, different competitions, even if it's from other sports, try to support, everybody else's sport. And just even just talking to people, a lot of times they might confuse it with Special Olympics, and not like just letting them say that, like actually correcting them and telling them like, Paralympics is different, it's just like the Olympics, but just, for people with physical disabilities, and just, getting the word out there a little bit more. So I think I'm doing a pretty good job with that.
I think so too. Awesome. Cool. I had someone on my team submitted this question for you. Can you kind of walk us through, I guess, a typical practice session, if you have one, and kind of what that looks like? Because when I see videos of you guys lifting things, I have no idea how y'all do that. So please, can you just kind of tell us about your training sessions?
So it varies depending on the day. Sometimes I might go in and the focus just back and shoulders, just making sure those are strong and ready. If it's a lifting day, like say closer to competition, we might run through the commands, run through the techniques. There might be days where I'm just, like, let me just try and lift as heavy as I can, not worried about technique or whatever. Um, and then there's the lighter days that, I'm just doing maybe lighter reps or cardio, or, just get outside and do something. So it just varies just to get all to that competition day.
No, definitely, definitely. It's about the journey, I guess. So many different pieces coming together for that competition or whatever it may be that athletes are working towards, which is so cool.
Yeah.
Um, cool. This is one of my favorite questions. Do you have a favorite memory, I guess, in your lifting career, or something that sticks out to you?
I would say favorite memory is actually being able to go to Kazakhstan and competing and just experiencing a different country that I really had no idea what it would be like, and just experiencing something way out of my regular comfort zone, and actually competing, against so many people in the world. There's like over 500 athletes there, just from so many different countries. And it's like, you just feel that honor, like, okay, I'm here for the USA. And it's just, I don't know, it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, yeah. No, you read my mind here. I was gonna ask you just about kind of that international representation and what that means and how that feels to you to be able to represent the USA in a place like Kazakhstan or wherever else you're going to compete.
Yeah, it feels great. It's a great honor that, that out of, you know maybe there's a lot of people who may not have the opportunity to compete, or if they do, I'm there to represent, and they could see me and say, hey, I want to do that because there's a girl here from California that competes, and, don't think that I'm nobody or small, that, they could compete as well, because, I never thought I would be competing at this age, at this time, but you never know.
Definitely. That's so cool. That's so cool. I love, especially this year, everybody's so, I guess, excited about the USA. I don't know how else to put that. We've gone through a lot, like this last year's been a lot. So I feel like just this country is on the road to being very unified. And I feel like that's awesome for all these international competitions. I've seen trials and things like that happening. And I know I feel like I'm more patriotic in this weird way. I'm not sure why, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Let's go into, I think this is the question I'm most excited to ask you about. Adapt or perish. I know it's in your Instagram bio. I've seen Team USA articles on it. I've seen all kinds of things. Can you tell me what this quote means to you and how this became your motto, I guess?
Well, like I said in the interview, I saw it from wrestling, but I kind of just took it and make it like my own. I know, just being disabled, I mean, I had to adapt to a lot of things growing up, and even just from my father. If my brother and sister were skateboarding, he would make the skateboard up in a way that I can get on a skateboard or a bike, so he adapted things for me. So as I got older, I had to realize that, okay, I have to adapt to, whatever situation, going to school, going to college. It might be different for other people, but, I have to make it my way to go forward. And then, if I don't adapt, I could perish. And I don't mean like and die, but just like mentally, spiritually, emotionally, you can just give up if you don't find a way to, make the situation work for you. So that's what it kind of means for me.
Definitely. That's awesome. I feel like another way, I guess, not perish, but perish, but not like death. Is finding like your voice, right? Like your purpose and what you're here for and what your purpose is in life.
Right.
And how people have used their voices. I think that's become a new thing. I haven't heard adapt or perish. Like I've heard of it, but I guess I never thought about it as much until I was speaking with you. But I think more people need to think about this, honestly.
Right.
Awesome. That kind of transitions into the next question I have for you, which is how you've used your platform to be a voice for the Black community and the Black community of athletes as well. And can you just kind of speak about sport and activism and how these things have kind of united over the last few months?
I think the best way that I use my platform is obviously social media. That's, especially with lockdown, that's like the easiest way to get information out. Speaking in different interviews, like I said, speaking to kids, um, just being a representation as well, even just me going out and competing as an African American, just being out there representing the country, showing that, I can still chase my dream and still show that, we're here and that we do support this country. We're from here. I want the best for this country, and show that, there is good stuff that come from the United States. Um, and just coming together as a community as well, because there are the people who are going to protest, and those other people who do, other things, donate, so it's just a combination of everybody kind of doing their part where they can, and, come together, make it a better country.
Totally. I totally agree with you. I love it. Awesome. I have a couple questions. I guess we're going to bounce around to a couple different topics here for the last couple minutes that we have. But first, I want to ask you, I guess, powerlifting. If someone doesn't know what powerlifting is, I feel like powerlifting kind of self-explanatory, but how would you describe this? This was something I was speaking about with some of our listeners the other day. They're like, you're interviewing a powerlifter? I was like, yes. They're like, what is that? And so if you were to describe the sport to somebody, how would you describe it, or what would you say?
Usually I would tell them like it's another word for weightlifting. Um, our biggest focus is the bench press. If, people are familiar with the bench press, and the only difference is that we have to keep our legs up and then we're strapped down, and then, we do our lifts. I think that's the the best way to
Yeah.
describe it.
Yeah, no, I get a visual. I can see it. I have seen it, but I can also see the visual from your description. Awesome. Um, let's hop to another topic real quick. Random wear. Can you tell me about this? I saw the Instagram page. Looks awesome. Yeah, how did this begin?
It started when I was in my first year of college. I actually went to school I wanted to go to school for fashion design, but I quickly changed my major to interior design and then blah, 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 ended up in graphic design. But I just always liked having unique things, especially like in high school. I always liked to wear stuff that other people weren't wearing and, have different colors, different outfits. So I was like, why don't I just start my own clothing line? Because then I could just make my own stuff and then nobody else has it. So my original thought or idea was having a clothing line where all the pieces or, shirts, hoodies were different. So everybody pretty much had their own color, their own style, their own graphic, and just be random. That's basically, that's where it started.
It's like the definition of custom clothing. I think that's so cool how it is so unique and random. It's perfect. I love it. I love it. That's so cool too that it started while you were in college and still going strong, which is so fun.
Trying to.
Awesome. I love it. It is. It is. It looks like it is. Cool. Awesome. I'll link it to in the caption, I guess, of the show. Just because I want people to see it. And if they probably don't know what I said, if random wear, I don't know if that played out, but awesome. I'll link it in the comment. Cool. Let's move into long-term goals. I guess, what are you focused on right now? What are you working towards and what's next?
So my long-term goal is, the next Paralympic Games in 2024, which is right around the corner. It's not 4 years away anymore.
Yeah.
That's my long-term goal, which starts at the end of this year. We have our World Championships in Hungary, so that would be like our first event, to lead us to that pathway to the 2024 Games. So that's my focus right now, just being mentally and physically prepared, and go out there and do great.
That's awesome. I want to go to the World Championship. That sounds so fun.
Yeah.
I love it. In Hungary, is that what you said? Sorry, I missed it.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited for you. I'll be watching and cheering from New York. That sounds great. Cool. Last question for you. I end all of my shows on advice. So what is one piece of advice you would give to younger Ashley?
I think I would just tell myself to just calm down and trust that everything is going to eventually work out and turn out great. That, even though you're on a certain path, like say I went to college for a certain reason and I changed my major a couple of times, I still ended up in a good career that I love. And even though I started sports when I was younger and then it didn't pan out through my middle age years, and then it came back around in my adult years. So it's just to kind of just trust the process, I guess.
Definitely. I think your path, whether it's in school or in sport, whatever that may be, is the definition of it's okay to not have the narrow path. Like you don't have to stick with one thing. Your major and your sport say that. And right. Here you are, you're killing it years later, which is so cool. But this was perfect. Thank you so much for sharing your story and telling us a bit more about powerlifting. We're cheering for you. I'll be watching you in Hungary in a few months. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Ashley, thank you so very much for coming on the show and sharing your story. Join us on Thursday for our second episode of Season 3 featuring Nick Turbide. He's a para swimmer on Team Canada, and he's going to tell us all about what his goals are and how excited he is for the Tokyo Paralympics.